Is that better? All right. How are you guys doing? Good. So, this is a message that I was going to preach, I don't know how many years ago, here on a Sunday morning. And I came in to preach it, and as I was, started the text, somebody had, a major medical problem, hit the floor, and I was like, I felt all empowered. Like, oh no, not on my watch, you know what I mean? So I literally, took off over there, and then, everybody was trying to, just surrounding them or whatever, and we ended up calling the ambulance, and it was a big ordeal, and I never got to preach it. So, but I'm like, if he's dying, I'm raising him up. You know what I mean? You ever had that kind of power where you're like, you're coming off that floor anyway. But it was, he was okay. So, yeah, so now I'm going to. So if you guys want to turn to Luke, it's the road to Emmaus, which actually works perfectly with where we're at right now with Holy Week being done. And so we're right on schedule, Luke 24. So quiet in here tonight. Should I tell a joke or something? No. Yes, I don't think I have one that I haven't told here before. How I had what? Today my clothes are all right. My pants are not inside out. Thank you, Jesus. I could fit the pack in there, so perfect. I'm good today. That's just today. We don't know about next week. Anyway. All right. So, the road to Emmaus. You know what? First of all, Easter. Don't you just love Easter? So amazing. Such a good time to remember. But you know what? We should remember every day what he did on the cross. Every day is Easter. Every day he's risen. You know what I mean? He's alive. And he's inside of you. Isn't that so awesome? That God left a temple and wanted to use you as his temple. I think, to me, that is the most amazing thing. You are the temple of God. That's so cool. I'm just like, wow, Lord, you're so amazing. All right, so this is after Easter. Oh, after Easter. They didn't call it then back then, but after Holy Week. After Christ dies on the cross. I just want to say this, he gave his life. He wasn't murdered. It almost like yes, did they kill him? Yes. But he willingly gave his life. If you look through the different Gospels, the story about his last days are all different. You know why? Because they're giving their testimony, what they saw, right? So in one text in John, it talks about how he's in the garden and the soldiers come and he says to them, it says that they brought a contingent. Oh, I'm going to get this wrong, a cohort, basically. That's 300 to 600 soldiers to arrest one man. Could you imagine? The most gentle man on earth. 300 to 600 soldiers. That's crazy. And so when they come into the garden and they say to him, he says to them, who are you looking for? And they said, Jesus of Nazareth. And he says, I am he. And when he said that, the power of God, boom, dropped every one of those men. Think about that, the power of God. Sometimes we think about he was super weak or something like, oh, they went and arrested him and they carried me so weak. No, we're talking about God in the flesh, Jesus. He had power. So when they arrested him in that garden, it wasn't like he was, just some weakling. Are you kidding me? 300 to 600 men hit the ground. And then what happens? Peter gets wild. Don't you love that? You got to have that friend. Everybody needs that friend or relative that's willing to cut somebody's ear off for you. You know what I mean? He said, listen, Noah just tried to steal her plant for his grandma. We're like, no, Noah, give it back. It's Taryn's. You know what? Everybody needs that person who's going to get a little violent once in a while. So what does Peter do? He cuts off Malchus's ear, and Jesus picks it up and heals him, puts it back on his ear. It's like he was full of power. So I never want to think of him as if he was weak and he went to the cross and they murdered him. No, he willingly gave his life. He could have at any moment called angels, armies of angels, and he could have been out of the situation. He chose to lay down his power and lay down his life for you. I know. It is just so cool. And then in the midst of, okay, so now if you flip to, I think it's Luke. I don't have it in front of me because I'm not even talking about this. But if you were to flip to another gospel, it talks about while this is happening, while they're there in the garden arresting Jesus, a naked man runs through the cemetery. Has anybody ever picked up on this before? You're like, are you kidding me right now? Huh? It's right there. You can't miss it. It says, and then there was a naked man running through the garden. It's like, what? What did that? Listen, if you go back and you look and you read the Greek, it actually says a man in burial clothes. So here you are in the garden. There's also a cemetery where they bury people, tombs, stuff. And a man in the midst of the power of God being, slaying all these soldiers to the ground. A man in burial clothes is running through the cemetery. What do you think that was? The power of God raised somebody up from the dead. Right. If there's a man running around near a cemetery with burial clothes on, I'm not the smartest, but some dumb, not plumb dumb. I think that's a guy who just got raised from the dead. The power of God hit that place. Boom, he's out of the casket. Isn't that amazing? Running through the garden, I'm just like, Jesus was not a wimp. He was the strongest man in the universe. But he gave his life. Think about this. Even when he was on the cross, what did he say? What were his last? Besides, it is finished. No, oh yeah, that too, but didn't he release his spirit to the Lord? Yeah. So who took him? Did he release it, or did they just snatch it? He actually said, I release. He chose when he was going to die. Jesus, so powerful. And he chose to do that for us, that we might have life. It's amazing to me. Anyway, so now this part of the text, it's already happened. Jesus now, he died on the cross. And now there were people that were there at the cross, but not a whole lot. Because the disciples got scared and ran off. Rightly so. I mean, don't you think? Maybe they were afraid that they were also going to be crucified. That's a horrible death. I mean, the Romans did it the worst. Horrible, horrible death. So I'm sure that's why they weren't there, but John was there. So somehow John made it to the cross. Mary, his mother, made it to the cross. Mary, his aunt, made it to the cross, and Mary Magdalene made it to the cross. So there's 3. How about a shout out for women? We stay to the end, right? So it's after this. So now he is risen from the dead, but not everybody believed them, that he had actually risen from the dead, which is crazy to me. Because he was giving them hints the whole way, and it's prophesied all through the Old Testament that this was going to happen. But a lot of them didn't believe, so they were disappointed. Have you ever been disappointed? No? Wait, who are you? We must see you. Raise your hand or stand up. Okay. I'm like, what? I got to take that out. So there's these 2 people walking down. They're leaving Jerusalem. They're like, we're done. They're disappointed, and they're going home. So if you want to turn to Luke 24, verse 13. Start there. All right. Now behold, it's the road to Emmaus. Now behold, 2 of them were traveling that same day to a village called Emmaus, which was 7 miles from Jerusalem. And they talked together of all these things which had happened. So it was, while they conversed and reasoned, that Jesus himself drew near and went with them. Okay, I'm going to stop for a minute. Did you get what that just said? Jesus has just risen from the dead, And now he comes back, and who does he choose to go see? The two people that were on their way out. They're walking 7 miles back home. They left. Now, when Jesus first came back, and Mary Magdalene, the first woman to see him, he said, go back and tell them, meet me in Galilee. That's what he told the disciples. But here's these two, and they're like, we're going home. They're going the wrong direction. That's not where they were supposed to go. That's not what God called them to do. That's not what Jesus said. He said, go to Galilee, and they're like, we're going home. So somewhere along the way, there's some miscommunication, right? Somewhere along the way, they are so distraught or so downhearted, disappointed, that they took it upon themselves to just like, you know what, it didn't turn out the way we thought it would, so we're going to go. Verse 5. So it was while they conversed and reasoned that Jesus himself drew near and went with them. But their eyes were restrained so that they did not know him. You know what? They're restrained so God wasn't allowing them to actually see who was with them. And he said to them, what kind of conversation is this that you have with one another as you walk and are sad? Then the one whose name was Cleopas answered and said to him, are you the only stranger in Jerusalem? And have you not known the things which happen there in these days? You know what? I think that's so funny. Are you like the only stranger in all of Jerusalem? Hello? Don't you know what just happened? You know what? Here's the deal. The word says 2 people were walking down the road to Emmaus. It's actually Cleopas, but you know, he's married to somebody named Mary, and it's actually Jesus' uncle. They don't say the name of the woman. Her name is Mary. She was the other lady at the cross. But they don't say that because women weren't important enough to remember or usually to put their names in there. It didn't matter. So they just used the name of the man. Isn't that crazy? So Cleopas and probably his wife Mary. Most scholars say it was that they're a couple and they're on their way home. But not all of them. I'm sure there's some that disagree with that. But makes the most sense. Why would they just name the man? If it was 2 men, wouldn't both men be named? Yes, they would. I feel like that anyway. All right, so not that matters, but it does to me. I like to know what does it mean? And who was there? And what's the point of this? I want to know. So we're talking about his relatives even. Not only were they his disciples, but Cleopas was Joseph, his dad, brother. So I don't know, I just think that's kind of cool. All right, if your family's with you on it, you know what I mean? There might be some doubters, but if your own family that lives with you agrees that you are the Savior of the world, that's a good sign. When they all yeah, he's him. All right. Are you the only, okay, I already said that part, verse 19. And he said to them, what things? So they said to him, the things concerning Jesus of Nazareth, who was a prophet, mighty in deed and word before God and all the people. You know what? They're walking along and they're talking. And here comes Jesus. And, you know, he's like, what are you talking about? What things? And they start sharing with him, well, you know, this is who we're talking about. I just want to say this. Did you know that the Lord listens to your conversations about him? Yeah. If you turn to Malachi, I didn't give you guys this. But if you turn to Malachi, and I'm going to tell you what. Malachi 3:16. It says, a book of remembrance. Then those who feared the Lord spoke to one another, and the Lord listened and heard them. So a book of remembrance was written before him for those who fear the Lord and who meditate on his name. They shall be mine, says the Lord of hosts, on the day that I make them my jewels, and I will spare them, as a man spares his own son who serves him. Then you shall again discern between the righteous and the wicked, between the one who serves God and the one who does not serve him. I want to go back. Then those who feared the Lord spoke to one another, and the Lord listened and heard them. Do you know every time that you have a conversation with someone about him, he listens? Do you know he has angels that report it? And that there's a book of remembrance that's made about every conversation you had about Christ. It's a big deal. When you make your conversations about him, he's listening. He's in the midst of you. And he's hearing what you're saying. So when you get to heaven, there'll be a book. Not only will it say, what did you do with what I gave you? But there's going to be a book And it's going to say, this is how many times Nikki talked about me. Oh my gosh. I don't know if you are like motivated by rewards or not, but you know, I want mine to be the biggest book in heaven. You know what I mean? You want to fill that puppy. You want it to be like this, you know, touch the ceiling. I don't know what kind of print it is, but is it like tiny print or a huge print? But I want it to be big. I want the book of remembrance under my name to be filled with every conversation to be around Christ. He's listening. Don't you want, I mean, now I'm not saying that it'll give you favor, but if I heard people talking real nice, good things about me, that'd make me want to be around them more. When I hear people talk not good things about me, I don't really want to be around them. So it's like, okay, Lord, I want to have every conversation. And think about this. When you talk about the Lord, you attract angels. You attract the kingdom of God. Man, I want to be surrounded by the kingdom. I want angels to feel comfortable to be with me. You know what I mean? I want them to fill my home and my job, and everywhere I go, I want them to be around. Isn't that cool? It'd be a really fun goal to like make sure every conversation you have, you at least throw his name in there. You know, like a Big Mac, Jesus, he rocks. I don't know. I don't know how you could do it, but if we could, that'd be amazing to fill it up somewhere. Anyway. All right, continuing on. All right. So, who was a prophet, mighty in deed and word before God and all the people, and how the chief priests and our rulers delivered him to be condemned to death and crucified him. But we were hoping that it was he who was going to redeem Israel indeed. Besides all this, today is the third day since these things happened. Yes, and certain women of our company who arrived at the tomb early astonished us. When they did not find his body, they came saying that they had also seen a vision of angels who said he was alive. And certain of those who were with us went to the tomb and found it just as the women had said, but him they did not see. Then he said to them, O foolish ones, and slow of heart to believe in all that the prophets have spoken. Ought not the Christ to have suffered these things and to enter into his glory? And beginning at Moses and all the prophets, he expounded to them in all the scriptures the things concerning himself. Did you know that the Old Testament is all pointing to Christ? The whole Old Testament points to him. And so Jesus comes, and as they're having this conversation, and what do you think? They're mourning, right? When you lose someone, it's easy. We should have a time of mourning. And so they're mourning, but they're also mourning that we thought he was going to do what we thought he was going to do. We thought he was going to come and he was going to overthrow Rome. Like he didn't, now what? Like, and do you think they actually said, maybe he wasn't who we thought he was? Maybe he's, he didn't do, we put our own expectation on God, don't we? On Jesus, what we want him to do. Not necessarily what his plan is, but what we think his plan should be. All right, verse 28. Then they drew near to the village where they were going, and he indicated that he would have gone farther. So he's walking past them. See ya, nice meeting you, But they constrained him, saying, Abide with us, for it is toward evening, and the day is far spent. And he went in to stay with them. You know what? That's a real Jewish custom, that if you were out on the road and it was getting ready to, sun's going down nighttime, you would ask them to come into your home. Today, would you ask people? A little less likely to invite a stranger into your home today. But back then, this is like common. This is good manners to ask somebody to come and stay with you, because there was robbers on the roads. So to keep them safe, you just like come in. Plus, they're like, who are you? You know what I mean? They want to get to know him. Anyway. Now it came to pass, as he sat at the table with them, that he took bread, blessed it, and broke it, and gave it to them. Then their eyes were opened, and they knew him. And he vanished from their sight. Trip out on that. Would you be like, oh my gosh, are you kidding me? So they're sitting there with him. They haven't recognized him this entire time. And he's talking about the scriptures and pointing to himself the whole time. Now, do you think you talk differently when Jesus isn't there? When maybe you don't care at that moment, You know, you're not thinking he's around listening, or I don't know. And so you have a conversation. How about anybody, not just Jesus? If somebody's with you, your conversation might be a little different than it is when they're not there, right? Gosh, isn't that terrible? We hope not. But I think that they were, you know, when they were having this real conversation together, and then Jesus comes, they think it's just another guy. They're kind of just saying, you know, we thought he was coming. He wasn't there, sharing their disappointment, not realizing it was actually him. Ugh. I remember hearing, this seems like it's going off topic, but I'll come back. It was a church service, and the pastor, it was a new pastor, nobody had met him yet. So they go to church, homeless guy sitting outside. I've already said this story here. Homeless guy sitting outside, and he's, you know, they're helping him out. Some people are giving him coffee, some are just ignoring him. So they go into the church service, and somebody invited the homeless guy sitting outside to come in to the service. So homeless guy comes in, starts to get up front, sits down, and somebody in the church went and told him, you can't sit up here. You need to get to the back. Wow. That's sad, isn't it? You know, the word actually says you shouldn't give favor to people just because they look like they deserve it. You don't give people favor because they look like they should have favor. They look like they have money. You should be nicer to them than the person that comes in that's homeless or, you know what I mean, down and out. Anyway, so they came in and told him, you need to get up and go in the back. So they made this homeless guy get up and sit in the back of the church. So the service starts. The new pastor's getting ready to come up, and they look around like, where is he? He ain't here yet. So they're waiting. The homeless guy gets up, walks to the front. He was the pastor. The guy that they told get to the back. He wanted to test their hearts. How do you treat people in this place? Ooh, that was a big fat failure, wasn't it? But I think about that with this, like how do we talk about people when they're not there or in general? Because if you wouldn't talk with them about them in front of them, you shouldn't talk about them behind their back either. Unless it's uplifting, encouraging, life-giving, right? I don't want people to talk about me behind my back. I'd like them to ask me the question first. If it's accusatory, you know? Ask me and then let me answer. So I just think it's kind of funny, you know, Jesus is there. They didn't say anything negative, but I wonder if they had known who he is, they wouldn't have said the truth about their feelings. They wouldn't have said, we're disappointed. We didn't know this was going to happen. We didn't know you were going to die. We thought you were coming to overthrow Rome. We thought things were going to be different. You blew it. You disappointed me. You aren't who I thought you were. I don't think they would have had that conversation had they known it was him, right? I just want to say this, intermission, break, May 2nd. May 2nd, right? 6 to 8, May 2nd. That's when the banquet is. I just remembered. Huh? Who has what? I don't have ADHD. Forget the H. ADD, spiritual maybe. Anyway, all right. So, verse 32. And they said to one another, did not our heart burn within us while he talked with us on the road and while he opened the scriptures to us? So they rose up that very hour and returned to Jerusalem. That very hour, they're like, we got to get back. We've got to get back. We went the wrong direction. So they get up and they head back. That very hour, they returned to Jerusalem and found the 11 and those who were with them gathered together, saying, the Lord is risen indeed and has appeared to Simon. And they told about the things that had happened on the road and how he was known to them in the breaking of the bread. You know what? Have you ever left too soon? Because guess what? They left too soon. And many times disappointment causes us to leave too soon when we should have actually stuck around a bit. And I feel like this message should go for anybody in any program here in Wilmer. Don't get up and leave too soon. Don't go too soon. You know, don't let the enemy, his job is to steal from you, kill, and destroy you. So if he can get you to the point of frustration where you get up and just walk out, I'm done, and leave, you've just aborted his plan for you. By getting up and leaving, now you're going to have to take another road around that mountain to come back to that same place. Don't do it. Don't leave too soon. Man, there was a promise that was waiting for them in Jerusalem, the Holy Spirit. And they were like, we're done. I'm disappointed. I'm mad. Let's go. Did you know that Thomas Jefferson, I couldn't believe this when I first heard it. Did you know Thomas Jefferson rewrote the Bible? Has anybody ever heard this? I know, it's crazy. Thomas Jefferson rewrote the Bible. What he did is he rewrote the New Testament, and he took out all the signs, wonders, and miracles. Everything that Jesus did, which I'm like, what's left? Because that's exactly what he did. He changed the Bible to where he believed in Jesus, and he loved his teachings. But he didn't believe that the signs, wonders, and miracles happened. So he just left them out, and then at the very end, when the tomb was closed, that's the end of the word. That was the end of his New Testament. And you know what that tells me? That's a disappointed man. That's a man who was somehow disappointed by the Lord. He felt the Lord let him down. He was somewhere disappointed, so he rewrote the whole thing. First of all, that's a dangerous thing to do. Doesn't it say you'll be cursed if you change the word? And leaving out Jesus? Whew, bad news. But yeah, he did that. When I heard that, I'm like, what nerve? And then I thought, I hope nobody else read that. And then I'm thinking, man, that must have been a really hurt man. Guess what? What makes you feel disappointed many times, well, let's just think about the word disappointment. There was an appointment. Dis means something happened, right? You all have an appointment. Disappointment comes when it doesn't show up the way we thought it was going to show up, or it didn't happen the way we thought it was going to happen. Then you have disappointment. You know what? Don't leave too soon. God's not done. He has a plan for you, and it's good. And he had a plan for these disciples, and they're like, we're out. He didn't come the way we thought he would. Obviously, he's not who he said he was. Let's go home. I just want to leave. Don't leave. Don't go too soon. I'm thinking, let's think about just Jesus himself. We just sang that song, Reckless Love. And what will he do for you? He leaves the 99, and what will he do? What's the cool part that you're like, yeah, I'd love to sing this part? Oh, come on, you guys. Huh? Chases you down. What else does he do? He kicks down walls. Yes, climbs mountain. What else? Yes, tears down the lights. Listen. Yes. Light up the shadows. Love that. Isn't that cool? Isn't that the part you're like, yes. You want somebody to do that for you, to rescue you, right? You want to light them up. You want that to happen. Listen, Jesus went out of his way. He was coming back to see all the disciples. He went 7 miles out of his way to take a walk, a 7-mile walk. I don't know. Anybody here want to walk for 7 miles? Are you crazy? He walked for 7 miles for 2 people just to say, look, listen, I'm going to show you who I am in the Word. I'm going to take you all the way back to the Old Testament. This is who I am. This is what I promise. It's me, and I'm going to do it. Come back. Come back. He did, and it said their hearts burned. You know, when we read the Word, our hearts should burn. Have you ever read the Word and you're like, oh my gosh, like it was so amazing. You just get excited. You're all by yourself reading the Word, and you're just excited because you read something that's just truth. And you're like, yes, Jesus. Listen, how many of you have walked away, have left too early, have left 7 miles too early? What about 7 years? I would say 70 years, but nobody here is that old. Well, my mother is. 70 years early. You know what I mean? How many have ever left early? God, and he goes out of his way to go and get them. Jesus goes out of his way to go get you. You know what? Don't leave too soon. Stay. I have here, stand still. Let him do the work that needs to be done in your life. Listen, there's something I've seen been a Christian for 51 years. And there's something I've seen happen over and over and over again. It's like a pattern. And this is the pattern. Somebody gives their life to Christ. And in 2 years, and they're loving it. And Jesus is showing up and he's speaking to your heart and he's doing amazing things for your life. You're seeing miracles happen, restoration happen, deliverance. Things are so good. But then at about the 2-year mark, things start to change a little bit. And he gets a little deeper. And the problem is when you don't let him go deeper, you run. I see it all the time. How many of you can recognize that pattern? It's so common that they actually call it a honeymoon period. So you have a honeymoon period with Jesus, and he rocks your world, and it's amazing. But then when he says, okay, now can we look at this area? And you go, no. Then suddenly everything changes because now you've backed up. You back away from him. But I'm telling you that if you'll stand still at that 2-year mark and let him deal with the stuff you don't want to deal with, and if you don't understand what it is, then let me say this, don't go there. Whenever there's a part of your life where you're like, don't go there. We can talk about anything, but don't you dare go there. Then that's your part. That's the part that you have never let the light come in and shine. So if you think about your soul, right, you get saved, your spirit, woohoo, gets saved and everything's good. But you still have your mind, will, and emotions, right? Yeah. Your soul. And so that's not saved. It gets renewed by the word. So you stay in the word and all of a sudden your mind starts getting renewed and new things are happening, things are changing. But you know what? It's still your choice because Jesus never throws himself on us, ever. He's such a gentleman that he'll say, can I look there? And the Holy Spirit, can we take a peek at that area? Nope. But every area inside of you that you keep shut, the enemy's allowed to traffic there. So what we need to do is let it open, let the light shine, right? Jesus' light shine in that area so you can be free. It's that 2-year mark. And it continues to happen the rest of your Christian walk. So I don't want to say at 2 years that will happen and then you're good to go. No. It will happen until you are completely 100% free. And it's for you. Jesus doesn't care about your junk. He wants you to be free of your junk. That's what it is. He doesn't care what you have in there because guess what? He already knows. He just wants you to willingly come to him and open it up. So you got to let the light shine. And I feel like this. I want to tell on myself as much as I can. Because I don't want the enemy to have anything against me. I don't want the enemy to say, don't tell them. You better be quiet about it. Nobody's ever experienced that. They're not going to understand. That's such a lie from the pit of hell. There is nothing anyone in this room has done that someone else hasn't already done. There's nothing that you have to be ashamed of because God knows it all, and you really wouldn't shock anybody if you said it. Maybe some people, but not everybody. And you know what? You're not shocking him. And he's not going to back up from you because he thinks that it's so bad. That's a lie from the enemy. Actually, what it does, it brings you closer. I feel like when you're with people who are believers and you share truth, you get closer. How many of you believe that? You will never, ever have a relationship closer than you do, besides marriage, with believers who pray together. There's something about sharing the Spirit, praying together in the Spirit that you can't, it knits you together. It like knits your hearts together. Don't you agree, Nikki? Yes. It's like knitting your hearts together, and you're so close to them because you've shared a part of yourself that you don't share with other people. And it just brings this tight relationship. In those groups is where you should be able to say truth. I mean, you can, alone with the Lord, like, I just want you to look in here. God, what is this? Why do I act like that? What is that from? And he'll reveal it to you. But if you have a group of people that you can do that with, that's gold. That is gold right there. And then you can help each other get free and show each other you don't have to be ashamed of what you're carrying. So good. God is so amazing. And I was thinking about people who you stay where, you want to leave where you're at. God, why am I still here? I want to go. I'm sick of this place because of blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? Whatever it is. And the truth is, we are such consumers. We're so, I don't know, consumerism, what I was thinking, but we think everything we do has to do with us. Well, I'm here at this place, and they're not doing what I think they should do. They're not treating me the way I should be treated. They're not doing, and it's like, it's not even probably about you. The Lord, surprise. You know what? This is a surprise to me, too, when it wasn't about me. I was disappointed. I think I told you guys this before. My husband and I did this. We went to this church that probably had 200 people, and they asked us to do a Valentine's thing. Have you ever talked about this? They asked us to do a Valentine video because anybody that was married more than 20 years, hey, guess what? Next Wednesday is my 37th anniversary. Isn't that awesome? I know. Pretty cool. Thank you. Anyway, after 20 years, they're like, do you two want to do a video? We're having all the couples been married 20 years up there. I said, sure. So we get up there, and they said, well, how has your marriage worked this long? And I said, because it's all about me, and he agrees, and he said, yes, I do. And that was it. That was our clip. And we laughed and laughed, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that sounded terrible. But it was actually kind of true. And then when I found out it really isn't about me, I'm like, really? So disappointed. No, I'm just kidding. No, not really. I mean, I really did think it was about me, but moving on. I'm sure none of you struggle with that, right? Just me. You know what? He probably has you in the